Guardians of the Galaxy Volume 2 is rocketing into theaters, and you know what that means. Time to speculate on what we can expect in Volume 3. I'm Sasha Pearl Raver, and this is Screen Junkies News.
Today's episode of Screen Junkies News is brought to you by M&M's.
Hey guys, I'm Sasha Pearl Raver here with Roth Coronet and Matt Key.
Hi.
We are huge fans of the Guardians of the Galaxy films here. Roth, it is your favorite franchise, yes?
You know, it's the Guardians 1 was my favorite of the Marvel movies. I absolutely adore it. I love these characters, and I definitely want to see more from them. And it's so funny that, you know, you talked about in the open, there's no rest for Marvel. Like, the movie isn't even out yet, and we're still ready to talk about what we want from the next one.
I love that. Yeah. I love that it's like, it's not even out yet. What are you doing with 3? Where's 3? Why haven't you made 3 yet?
You know that thing we just told you about? You're all over it, right?
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Well, and here's the thing, because they've already talked about how moving forward, Guardians and Marvel are already set for the next 10 years. So we are open to speculation because we know that they have a plan. The question is...
They have a plan.
What is that plan? So I'm going to open up the floor to you first, Roth. What do you hope to see? What do you think we might see? Where are the Guardians going to take us?
Well, we know that from all of the Marvel films, right, that from Doctor Strange to Thor, that things are getting more and more cosmic, and that universe is going to begin to expand. And I think we're going to have sort of the Earth's Mightiest, which we already do have, but we'll see more and more of those team-ups and things in space. But with Guardians, it's sort of interesting because it's a film that started up, it's like reverse Avengers. It started out as a team. And so I'm kind of curious to see what would it be like to then go into individual storylines. We had talked about this previously. Vin Diesel teased the idea of a Rocket and Groot movie. There's all kinds of pairings that could be interesting. And now we have new characters, like is it Drax and Mantis that get their adventure? Rocket and Groot go off and they do a thing. We get maybe a prequel of the Ravengers, and we sort of see how they came together, who are really interesting characters, different from the comic.
Absolutely.
Oh, they're way different from the comics. The Ravagers were, well, I mean, I don't know anything about the Ravagers. I know that Yondu was originally one of the original Guardians from like the 1969 from the 1969 comics. That also had characters like Charlie 27, Vance Astro, Martinex, who was like from Pluto. So, I mean, if we ever saw any of that, I mean, it's doubtful that we'll ever see. That's a deep, deep, deep cut, but I think it'd be cool.
Deep cuts. That's what Marvel does well.
A tremendously deep cut, though. Like 1969 OG Guardians, barely Marvel comic fans know about those guys.
But at the same time, if you think about what they've been able to do, even since the inception, like I feel like they launched with Iron Man in a time where probably most of the world thought, if you're not Spider-Man and Batman, forget it.
Right.
You know, and then they proved that that wasn't the case, and they especially proved that that wasn't the case with the first Guardians. That was the movie where I think Marvel said we can literally do anything as long as we tell a compelling story. I know, shocking for a movie, a compelling story with great characters that you want to follow.
Well, and here's the other thing that I think is interesting. So, like you said, Marvel's done this amazing job of resurrecting careers and giving people that we didn't expect to have a particular kind of career a different avenue. Like, Taika Waititi is an incredible director, but after you've got like What We Did in the Shadows and suddenly you've got him taking over Thor, it's a very different thing. Jon Favreau, yes, great director, but Zathura and Cowboys and Aliens didn't necessarily set him up to create a multi-billion-dollar world. I think what we're about to start seeing, because like we've talked about a lot, contracts are going to be up. We're going to see actors come into this world in a different way, and there's going to have to be new teams assembled. Right. Because we're going to phase out some of the Avengers. There's been a lot of talk about like all the deaths we'll see in Infinity War, and then new adventures will sort of grow and spread. I'm wondering if we're going to start seeing the Guardians back on Earth more, or if the cosmic universe, and then the cosmic universe will then sort of belong to newer teams. Because as the Avengers go away, the Guardians will take over their job here.
You know, like you brought up Thor Ragnarok, and I think that that's a really good thing to bring up in terms of like the future of just the cinematic universe in general, but very specifically to the Guardians, is that I feel like all of Phase 4 is going to be not massive team ups, but Thor and Hulk. Like, so we'll get stuff like Rocket and Groot, or you know, Drax and Gamora, like going after Thanos. Or
Drax, I have to say, I just rewatched the first movie again. Drax is the best character. He is so underrated. Everyone talks about Star-Lord and whatever. Drax is my king.
Yeah.
I love me some. How about like a Drax and Groot pair up?
Or because I agree with you, Drax is amazing and super underrated.
And Groot.
But since we are getting into an expanded cosmic universe and you're talking about these team ups, what happens when we know that we're going to see some of Thor and Hulk and Planet Hulk play out in that movie? What happens if we see Drax and Hulk together?
Yes,
what is that like? What does that relate? Do they just go beat how do they even interact? I want to see.
I want to see that.
The two of them try to communicate, or the two massive egos that are Thor and Star-Lord.
Yes.
Like, what happens when they meet?
Who's got better hair? Who's got better abs?
Yeah,
I mean,
like,
these are
they're both,
questions
like,
we need
abs
to know.
contest. I would be
Thor
interesting to
wins.
know who.
Thor wins.
Well, we assume some of these meetups are going to happen in Infinity War and the Avengers films, right? So then it becomes what James Gunn has always said, that he was incredibly protective of these characters in this world and sort of keeping them insulated and isolated. Now, eventually, that's going to expand out. But you also don't want the guy to feel obligated every single time to be like, I have to get this soundtrack together, and it's got to sort of like, I have all these obligations. So it'd be interesting to see him be freed of that a bit. And I think that these different pairings or different timelines, even earlier times in their stories, would be a way to attack that.
I like that very much.
Yeah, I think like you've said earlier timeline a couple times, and it just keeps making me think like it would be so fun to see like.
I didn't even realize that timeline.
Yeah, timeline. It would be so fun to see like flashbacks to like earlier, like pre-Guardians, like what was Xandar like? Were there Nova Corps? What do they do? Like, because that's one of the things that was missing from the first Guardians movie. They didn't have like Nova, like they didn't have the helmets. They weren't rocketing through space with force fields around them like they do in the comics. It'd be interesting to see if they did stuff like that. Or going back to the Ravagers with like Yondu Udanta, it would be amazing to see like, did he have another team before the Ravagers, or what were his Ravagers doing?
Yeah.
You know, did the original team ever actually exist? Like, they've pulled Yondu, why not pull some other random character? That would be amazing.
This is the only thing that, with everything you're saying, Roth, I agree. But I feel like the reason the Guardians movies are so fantastic is because you do have these wonderfully character-y characters, which don't necessarily fit what we expect from like a Superman or a Spider-Man. They're a little bit more out there. The soundtracks are exceptional, and I don't want him to change that at all. And they feel, in a franchise that is known for doing fun well, they do fun better than the other fun films.
They are very fun, and I do love the soundtracks too, but I guess I would want him to feel unleashed from having to do certain things and just to let his imagination go and see what he comes up with. We should also say, if it's not obvious, these are all sort of things that we would desire to see in the movie that are spoiler-free, unrelated to anything that happened in Guardians 2.
This is a wish list.
This is a wish list.
Yeah.
We will be talking probably in the future about things that played out and that we will see speculatively moving forward. But these would all be awesome.
Are there any actors that you would like to see come into this franchise? Because I really love how James Gunn works with his actors. He has great relationships. I think, like we were saying, Drax, like Dave Bautista is not somebody who I ever thought I would be like, that's one of my favorite people in Hollywood, but he is. I think even what he's able to do with his brother with the CGI and then Bradley Cooper's voiceover for Rocket is so exceptional. Vin Diesel. It's his best character since Dominic Toretto. So what other actors would you like to see come into this world?
So literally it's like Vin Diesel has two characters is what you're saying.
Dominic Toretto and Groot. And that's all I need.
Do you know the other character that he really wanted to play in Marvel?
Yeah.
I don't.
Well, he's wanted to play a couple.
But like as of like a couple years ago, he really wanted to play Black Bolt, and Black Bolt never talks in the comics. So it would be so interesting to have Dom Toretto, and then I am Groot, and I don't talk. Like, good on you, Vin Diesel.
Yeah.
Are there any comic book storylines that you especially want to see play out moving forward in Guardians specifically versus in the larger Infinity War Avengers movies?
There's some of my favorite stuff that I've remember from like the 2008 Dan Abnett run was like the fights with the Universal Church of Truth, and again, like going back to like the original Guardians in the 31st century, they discovered that history was falling apart for some reason, and they traced it back to the present day Guardians. So the future Guardians of Yondu, Martin X, Charlie 27, those guys came back in time. Starhawk came back in time to try and figure out what was ruining alternate timeline future.
Timeline.
Timeline. Can we say timeline even more?
Timeline future.
If you want to get really specific, they're from the alternate timeline of 691. Boo. Super nerdy. But I would love to see something like that, like the original Guardians meeting the present day Guardians, and that's from the comics. I would love to see that, and then fight the Church of Universal Truth or Thanos or Adam Warlock's evil self, Magus.
Yeah.
Sorry, it took me a second to remember that.
Oh, man. So much to look forward to, so much potential. We want to know, what storylines would you like to see, and what are you excited for in Volume 2 and in Volume 3? Let us know in the comments below. You can tweet us at SJ News. Make sure to like and subscribe. And of course, we'll see you back here for more Screen Junkies news very soon.
Thanks again to M&M's for sponsoring today's episode.